much. But our next speaker, his bio is also in the program. I'd like to welcome the General Manager of the Cairns McHugh Harbourside Hotel, Mr. Shane Edwards, and he's in a role that has direct influence on Indigenous employment and changing this sector, and I'm really looking forward to hear what he has to say. Welcome, Shane.
Wow, that was awesome. Good morning. I'd like to acknowledge the Larrakia people on the land, on where we meet today, and of elders past and present. I would like to acknowledge the dignitaries, the VIPs and fellow speakers, and you, the delegates, who are here to workshop, network, listen, and talk, and hopefully take ideas back to your regions. 5% of the world's Indigenous population live in Australia. 22.5 million people call Australia home. It is estimated 2.4% of these Australians recognise themselves as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders. Australia's unemployment rate currently sits at 5.2%. In comparison, it is estimated that 18%, nearly 36,000 Indigenous Australians, are also unemployed over the age of 15. There are many organisations working hard to close this gap. 300 have now have an active Reconciliation Action Plan, or a RAP. A Reconciliation Action Plan is a business plan that takes a holistic approach to create meaningful relationships and sustainable opportunities for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. Kia ora, Mike. That was awesome. It's great to hear what you've been able to achieve in New Zealand, and now obviously bringing that to the global stage. Personally, I'm originally from New Zealand, growing up in New Zealand. I grew up with a Pākehā mother and a Pākehā stepfather, and at times I felt disconnected to my own culture. During school, I joined cultural groups. I hung out with a lot of Kazi bros, but I didn't really have an appreciation of my own culture. I guess now working in Australia with the Indigenous Australians, I truly appreciate the uniqueness that Indigenous people bring to the landscape of a country. New Zealanders in general have embraced the Māori culture. 2 words. The All Blacks. There's actually 3. But one of the strongest brands for Indigenous culture in the world. Not everyone knows the players. Not everyone knows the moves. But everyone knows the haka. Have you ever seen a Chinese person do the haka? It's fantastic. I am Shane Edwards from Accor, Indigenous champion for Queensland, and privileged to live in one of Australia's greatest tourism and Indigenous hotspots. I live in Cairns. My role of Indigenous champion was established to assist our company to implement the many initiatives into our region identified in our Reconciliation Action Plan. While my primary role is as manager of the McHugh, like most champions and general managers across the regions, the two have become a lot more intertwined, especially places like Cairns and regional areas. Tourism has and will play a major role in the reconciliation process and has the ability to increase the awareness of Indigenous cultures. There are many opportunities that we have identified when closing the gap. Hotels. Hotels are a great catalyst to build diversity and acceptance. The staffs of many of our hotels are a melting pot of nationalities that provide a tolerant environment to accept culture as part of its DNA. The diversity of our guests, both internationally and domestically, that move through our businesses every day, not only provide our people with exposure to their culture, but also gives each individual in that hotel an opportunity to express and promote their own heritage. As Indigenous companies emerge, We also find there is further connection indirectly with the Indigenous communities through services and products. The engagement of the local Indigenous communities has been beneficial in extending our relationships in business, allowing us as a company to connect more with the community. We understand that each region is different. And in each region, and each hotel in those regions needs to review the level of engagement to ensure the connection is made. I'd like to share with you an example of this connection which not only underpins our company's engagement but reinforces the true characteristics of why, what I call, we're in the people industry. Someone once said to me, adopt an elder. Adopt an elder. And over the years, in my role, I've been fortunate enough to see and witness the impact that has on our hotels and the staff that are employed within. In October 2011, Accor, in conjunction with Mission Australia, competed in a 3-day physical challenge called the Race to Survive. The event was designed to raise money for Mission Australia and assist victims of domestic violence re-enter the workforce through initiatives. And in Darwin, you have the Saltwater Kitchen. The event consisted of 84 competitors, from executives to frontline staff. The event was held at the Novotel on the Twin Waters and Sunshine Coast. On the first night, we had Welcome to Country. Welcome to Country by Auntie Bev. There's our first connection there. She talked about the rivers. She talked about the mountains. She talked about the place names and where we would be competing over the next 3 days. While riding through the bush, paddling on the rivers and running up those mountains, we found ourselves identify with Auntie Bev's Welcome to Country, and we could hear that in the back of our minds. The experience from that stay and from that event will stay with not only myself but many of my colleagues, and then when they return back to the Sunshine Coast, they will also pass that story on. We acknowledge that each person has a story to tell. It is up to us to make sure we listen. Our story continues. In 2011, we celebrated our 20th birthday in Australia and celebrated the first hotel being the Novotel in Darling Harbour. In 2012, and 160 hotels later, we are now the largest hotel operator in this country. It was recognised more than a decade ago, in 2001, that as an emerging company in Australia, we needed to embrace and address the underemployment of Indigenous Australians in our workforce. With federal government backing, we introduced the Indigenous Employment Program, which is aimed to employ and develop the careers of Indigenous Australians. While continuously laying the foundations for the following 8 years, in 2009, we relaunched our Indigenous Employment Strategy. To ensure the strategy was practical, sustainable and culturally appropriate, consultations were held with staff, Indigenous staff, the core management, external expertise in Indigenous employment and training services. From this, we developed and launched the Job Ready program. The 5-day training course focused on practical skills in key areas of hotel operations. The first intake of Job Ready candidates started in Sydney in 2009, then rolled out across the country. Between 2009 and 2011, we have operated 24 Job Ready programs and trained more than 500 trainees. In 2012, we will hold 15 Job Ready programs, potentially employing an additional 150 Indigenous employees across the network. Our Indigenous staff currently makes up 4% of our workforce. After this year's intake and successfully, we would like to employ another 2.5% over the next 12 months. I'd like to show you a clip now on our Job Ready program, and not just hearing from Accor, but also hearing from some of the graduates themselves. That's not it.
Australia is a unique tourist destination. Our people, our amazing natural landscape, and our rich Indigenous culture make it a place like no other. Since its establishment in Australia 20 years ago, Accor has changed the face of the hotel industry. Initially pioneering Sydney's dynamic Darling Harbour precinct, Accor has grown to over 150 hotels across the country. As they approached the new millennium, Accor identified a great opportunity that had, to that point, been ignored. As the rest of Australia was properly coming to grips with the real inequities between our first Australians and the wider population, Accor came to believe that Australian tourism could play a significant role in closing the gap.
As Accor became a tourism leader very quickly within Australia, clearly the Indigenous story and the Indigenous employment strategies became evident, and they became a fairly important part of our business and our responsibility, and we've taken that responsibility very seriously.
The hospitality industry and the tourism industry in the whole should be promoting Indigenous culture.
In our business, we employ people from different backgrounds, different races. Also, our clientele reflects that, so the more diverse we can be in our business approach, the more successful we are as a company.
An integral part of Accor's approach is a program called Job Ready, developed by their own training division, Academy Accor.
We put 40 hours of free training into our Indigenous employees, or those Indigenous employees that we hope to make job ready. A lot of hours are spent with the Academy Accor, which is our university, for want of a better word, in terms of our training, and we get potential Indigenous employees ready for the network, and it works fantastically. We have a much higher success rate in getting people into employment and then getting them through to the next level.
The opportunity for me to work at Accor came about through the Job Ready program, started by Accor.
Never done housekeeping before. When I first started, never had any idea of housekeeping.
I was going through a Aboriginal job program, and they told me about the job, and so I did a 1-week training course.
I'd done a 5-day course here at the Novotel, at which at the end of it I was interviewed and got my current position.
They're all down to earth, they all help you out. They don't expect you to know everything as soon as you get the job. They train you so you know what you're doing.
Since then I've helped with other Job Ready programs, and one of the things that attracts me to Accor is the fact that they are willing to go out there and to help the Indigenous people.
Since the beginning of the program, Accor has employed more than 500 Indigenous Australians in a wide variety of roles that include food and beverage, housekeeping, kitchen and front office.
So I've been working for 5 months with Accor. They're very diverse, so there's a lot of cultures and we all work together well.
There's definitely a lot of skills that I've learnt here that I can translate into my daily life. I didn't actually know how to use a computer extremely well before I started here, and now I'm not so much a whiz, but I'm pretty good on it now.
I'm very interested in travelling as well in my career, so I think that Accor would just be great. They can just take me all over the world, wherever.
With high proportions of Indigenous Australians living in remote and regional communities, Accor is ideally placed to provide training and employment in the areas where it's needed most. Importantly, Accor's programs, which are consistently reviewed and adapted, have been tailored to meet the needs of local people and the unique communities in which they live.
I've always been interested in cooking and tried applying for job as an apprentice chef in several other places around Broome and couldn't get one, and so when I had the opportunity I jumped on it and pretty much started the next day. They encourage you to move around, so you work in the bar, get the experience of working behind the bar, catering the functions, especially when we do some really big formal functions.
Whilst Accor's leadership role in Indigenous employment has had a significant impact, it couldn't have done so without the support and collaboration of like-minded partners, such as Mission Australia.
Mission has been working with Accor for a number of years now. We've had a good relationship on a range of areas. I would love in Australia to be in a position where actually we don't have to have special Indigenous employment programs, because it should be something that's part of our society and part of who we are. It should be a normal thing. To get to that point, we have to do some work.
Accor really does take its responsibilities and leadership position in the industry very seriously, and its holistic and visionary approach to the training and employment of Indigenous Australians and their engagement with local communities bears testament to this.
Well, if I didn't have this opportunity, I wouldn't be anywhere right now. I'd be probably on Centrelink payments, sitting at home doing nothing. It's good that the Aboriginal employment places have these opportunities for us, because a lot of us grow up going through like families that are alcoholics and stuff and don't think we can go anywhere. And then once you get this job, they show you that you can go anywhere you want.
What they do at a hotel level and on the ground is outstanding, and it blows us away.
And if you genuinely care for your employees, you're going to set them up for success, and that goes across our whole network. So in the Indigenous area, we want to make sure they are successful, and that's obviously critical, because when those people then go back into their community and talk about the Core Job Ready program, again, it's very natural for them. They talk about it with a level of comfort and pride, and they've been successful and they've got through.
There's never a day that you don't learn something different.
I'm hoping I'm just going to keep on growing and moving up within a core.
To be able to tell your friends that you love what you do and you enjoy it every day and you actually want to get out of bed and come to work, I don't think many people have that in their life, so I think it's really great to be able to do that.
I know I'm very good at my job. I don't think I am, I know I'm good at my job.
Well, I understand that that clip has very core, strong undertones, and many of you will kind of come and see me later and ask for a job. It is something that highlights something that we are very proud of, and the direction we bring to Indigenous people to bring them to mainstream tourism. I remember showing this clip to some Year 10 students at Warri State High School. And during the presentation, one of the kids put up his hand and said, "Excuse me, sir, that's my uncle." And straight away, it gave me goosebumps. But already, we've changed the perception of one person's life. Employment for many years has been a vehicle for our company to embrace the Indigenous culture and for us to see firsthand the effects it has on our business. The ability to understand the individual cultural differences, while at the same time introducing new staff to our company's internal culture and values. The benefits to build a sustainable and unique workforce assist in removing many of the stereotypes surrounding Indigenous people. The two-way educational process has been important to expanding the diversity and education in our industry. We understand the pressures of business, and especially the drain on labour into the highly paid resource sector. While hospitality cannot compete financially with the resource sector through entry-level positions, it's probably through any position, the benefits of a progressive career allows for the transfer of skills across many aspects of the person's development. Tourism is a people industry, and the development of Indigenous people's skills, we can increase the voice of one person's culture to the masses. Retention of Indigenous staff has been a major focus of our company, because any business, and to be honest, can employ an Indigenous staff member. The key for us is to identify at the start that the person is suitable for the job, or through a program like Job Ready, we ensure that they are up to the initial task. As mentioned, we work with many partners like Mission Australia, to ensure that before they can succeed with us, they need to have the support and stability of their family life. Our intention is not to employ every Indigenous person, but ideally, potentially, see the potential in those that have the right personality and attitude, giving them every opportunity to succeed. To sustain our Indigenous workforce, we need to build leaders. Within our organisation, we need to build leaders within our organisation that not only add value to our company, but provide a generational pathway to many Indigenous persons moving into the mainstream tourism. The transition we find ourselves in at the moment is comforting. The ability to have a foundation for people to grow, and the knowledge that Indigenous engagement is recognised through all levels of our organisation. We've now moved into the second year of our Reconciliation Action Plan. The perception that Aboriginal people have of jobs in the industry no longer are confined to entry-level positions. Indigenous people are now accepting roles within our organisation as supervisors and managers in their own right. The progression of our current employees equates to nearly 1 in 4 of our Indigenous employees holding higher positions within our organisation. The growth in leadership roles educates new employees, while also providing a mentor support for for other managers and supervisors within the organisation. Recognising the potential of Indigenous leadership, we have recently launched our Pathways program, which runs in conjunction with other Accor management programs. The purpose of the program is to fast-track applicants to management and supervisory level, giving them the operational competencies, not only to manage staff, but also allowing them to work on celebration activities such as NAIDOC Week and Sorry Day. We need Indigenous leaders within our ranks creating pathways. The opportunities available to an Indigenous person in tourism is endless. From running their own business to providing service or a product to our business, or through direct employment with a company like Accor that opens the pathways both domestically and internationally. Australia is made up of so many great tourist attractions. The magic of Uluru, the iconic Sydney Harbour, and of course, the Great Barrier Reef. Internationally, these are amazing icons of the world. As the world becomes smaller through technology and the convenience of air travel, the traveller, both domestically and internationally, want more and are focusing more on the journey rather than just the story. It is now becoming important as an international competition increases that if Australia wants to compete on the world stage, we need to embrace the rich heritage of this country. We need the Indigenous community deeply embedded within the tourism industry. As a visitor and adopted son of this nation, I'm proud of the country that I live in today. Sure, it does not have the best rugby team in the world, but you're getting there. You just need a few of us over here. But it has great potential to reinvent itself and prove to the rest of the world that it truly understands its own identity. Let's be proud of that.